So you're playing Wuthering Waves, you're doing some 10 pulls, and while you don't get a 5-star, you do get 4-star YangYang. Now YangYang is a character that you also get for free whenever you first start playing the game. So if you are doing pulls right now and you get her, then you're going to be getting her Resonance Chains, which can be really good because it can increase the amount of support that she can give to your other characters. And in this video, we are going to look at the basics of YangYang, how her kit works, and a couple of different roles that she can fill, or one role that she can fill pretty well, might be the best person for this role in the game right now. So we're gonna go look at how her kit works. Now there is no sponsor in this video except for me. I'm sponsoring this video. Melissa did her very first cosplay ever with a cozy modern Freerin, and we did do a photo shoot and some videos. So if you want to see more of that, make sure that you follow, subscribe, like, all of that fun stuff. I'll be posting them kind of all over. And of course, as always, we do have our Concerto Energy Circle and our Forte gauge above the HP bar. We're going to talk about how to fill that Forte gauge and what her outro skill does with her Concerto Energy. So first, we're going to look at her normal attacks. Now, her normal attacks are going to do arrow damage, and if we do, I believe it's normal attack 4, then it's going to give a melody or a stack to her Forte gauge above her HP bar. So as we're going through doing these normal attacks, you're going to see, if, as long as we do normal attack 4, that we are going to gain a melody on the Forte gauge. Now, another way that we can gain a melody on her Forte gauge is if we do her heavy attack followed up by a normal attack. So we're going to do the heavy attack, and it's going to go through any enemies, kind of dealing arrow damage. And then if we follow it up with a normal attack, she's going to turn around and slice at the enemies, dealing arrow damage, but also giving a melody stack as well. Now, another way to get a melody stack is going to be her skill, which is going to do an instance of arrow damage as well as a little bit of grouping, right? It's going to do AoE arrow damage and group the enemies together. This is going to give another melody stack. Now, once you have her Forte gauge full, if you do a heavy attack, whenever she goes towards the enemy to do this instance of arrow damage, at the end of it, she's going to attempt to hit them up. After that attempt to hit them up, I say attempt because if they're a larger enemy, they're not going to go up, but if they're a smaller enemy, she will actually hit them up into the air. After that, she will jump. Once she is in the air, if you continue holding down that heavy attack, she's going to do a flurry of arrow strikes, dealing arrow damage in an AoE, as well as a final strike once she's back down on the ground. Now, through the 3 methods that we've talked about getting her Forte gauge melody stacks up, with normal attack 5, her skill, and then of course her heavy attack, followed up by normal attack, you can get her Forte gauge charged very fast. There is a 4th way to do it, which is just using her intro skill that'll automatically give a melody stack, but you can get her her Forte gauge stacked up very quickly. Now, something that doesn't give a stack though is actually her burst. Her burst is going to do a very large AoE arrow damage. It is also going to group enemies together. So she does have grouping, which is one of the roles that she can fill, is a character that will group enemies together to allow your next character coming on the field to have your enemies in one place, dealing a bunch of damage. One of the great things about YangYang is that because she can get her Forte gauge charged so quickly, she's going to be able to outro skill off of the field very frequently. And her outro skill is going to restore 4 resonance energy per second for 5 seconds to the incoming resonator. So she is a battery. Notice it doesn't say anything about like it specifically needs to be an arrow character or a healer or anything like that. It just says to the incoming resonator. So we can use her as a universal battery, where if you have a team, if you have a character like your main damage dealer that relies on their burst, then having YangYang on the team can actually be really good, because she will help battery that character that's going to take the field, like GM, as well as getting a little bit of grouping in. So we have a grouper and we have a battery. But you notice that there really isn't a cooldown on the outro skill, right? As long as you have the Concerto Energy, then you can use that as much as you want. So YangYang can actually battery 2 characters. If we start with YangYang and get her Concerto Energy up and then go into like Jinshi, then we can have Jinshi's burst up much more often without as much energy regen investment into Jinshi. So this will be really good, because we can always have healing, we can always have some coordinated damage, and we can always get Jinshi's buff. And we can always kind of have Jinshi ready to go. So what we can do is we can go from YangYang to Jinshi, back into YangYang, then into YangYang, because YangYang can battery everybody else on the team. So now that we have her as a grouper and as a battery, let's talk about how to make her also be a buffer. And that is going to be with the Moonlit Clouds Echo set. And if you have any questions about Moonlit, I did make a whole video talking only about Moonlit, so go check that out. So to touch on it real quick, Moonlit is going to allow any character to be a buffer. Once they use their outro skill, it is going to give an attack buff to the incoming Resonator, which can be really, really good. You could also still build a fairly good amount of damage onto your YangYang by like running a crit rate on the 4 cost, then either double arrow or arrow and energy regen, and then attack on the 1 costs. Also the 4 cost with this, I would probably go with the Heron, because then whenever you go to GN upon using the outro skill, it's going to give another buff. So the Echo set is going to give a buff, and then the Heron is also going to give a buff, and you're going to be battering the next character to go in there. So for weapons, of course, you do have 5-star Immortal Genesis, which is going to get up her crit rate, as well as her energy regen and her attack. So this is just going to be really, really good all-around weapon. This is a phenomenal weapon. If you need a 4-star, I would probably go with like Endless Collapse, because it's going to get up her attack, but then it's also going to grant her some resonance energy after using her skill, and then it's going to increase her attack again. So it's not going to be as good as Immortal Genesis, but it can be a good weapon, because I don't think right now we have a sword that gives pure energy regen. So her first change intro skill is going to increase her arrow damage bonus by 15%. It's just going to increase her personal damage. Number 2, heavy attack recovers an additional 10 resonance energy for YangYang. So you can get away with less energy on YangYang and maybe like an arrow damage bonus on the 3-cost Echo. Number 3, resonance skill damage bonus is increased by 40%. That it will have a bigger pulling effect on her skill and range, so it's just a better grouping. The mid-air attack, Feathers Release, that's with her forte gauge, its damage is increased by 95%. Resonance Liberation is increased by 85%. And then RC6, after casting her Feather Release, her mid-air attack, the attack of all team members is increased by 20% for 20 seconds. So this is going to give her a buffing from the Echo set, a buffing from the Echo itself, the Heron, and from her RC6, and a battery, and a grouper. So you're getting a lot of stuff from YangYang, and honestly, she can fit in to nearly any team if you feel like you're missing something, right? If you're like, man, I need my burst more readily available for this character, and I don't know what I want to use for the 3rd character, YangYang can fill that spot, because she can battery, she can group, she can buff, she can do a lot, especially at RC6. While still being able to do a fair amount of her own damage as well. And because she's so quick to charge up her Concerto energy, then swapping her off for the outro skill, going back to her and then swapping back off, you can quickly break the enemy shields, their stance. I guess there is a term for it, I just can't remember off the top of my head right now. Vibration stance, vibration something? It's vibration something, right? The little shield thing below their HP bar on like the bosses. Because she can very quickly build up her Concerto energy, then you can swap her off, do an instance of breaking the enemy's stance, so go back to her, use it again, and you can just battery back and forth kind of all of your characters while allowing her to use her outro skill a ton. So that is going to be it for this video. There's not really a character in Wuthering Waves that has green hair. I have green hair that needs to be re-dyed, and I will see you in the next one.
Rejuvenating snow. Let the winds roar.
Ready for battle. Fear no more.